My name is Jennifer Geelan, and I'm a Children's Law Center volunteer attorney. There was a partner at the firm I worked at that had done a lot of work with the Children's Law Center, and he encouraged me. When I clerked there in the summer, he had talked about the work he had done, and with them, I had been a high school teacher before I went to law school, so he knew I had an interest in children.
My name is Deandra Walker. I've been a client of the Children's Law Center. My Children's Law Center attorney is Jennifer Geelan. She was the best person that I had on my team. She was there for me more than any of my other social workers. She's the only worker that I had that was there the entire time through my time in foster care. I would go back and forth between my mother, my grandparents, my aunt, and it just wasn't an ideal situation for me. I was never able to be comfortable. And my mom had a lot of issues with addiction. My family kind of never really got along, so when we were one place, it would only work out for so long before we had to move again. I was probably about 9. I know that it was a lot of situations in my life that happened before that, but at the age of 9 is kind of when I started to realize how big of a problem it was.
The very first clients I had were Deandra and her brother. They had been, I think their mother was a heavy drug user, and they had been, had to leave the home relatively young and had gone to live with their aunt. And then that placement got disrupted. She adopted them and then decided that she didn't want to have the 2 older children in her home. And so then she went back into the foster care system and was living with the foster care mother, and that's when I got involved. Besides the very sort of disruptive life that they'd had, Deandra was remarkably strong, remarkably doing well in school, very well adjusted, just a really strong kid. She was just looking for some help to find a home. And I think early on in her sophomore year, she was so young, I don't know that she really knew what she wanted that home to look like, and she was sort of kind of waiting to see what was going to happen with this new placement. And then I think it became clear to Deandra that she didn't feel wanted in the home. It wasn't a home for her. And I think really reached out to the Children's Law Center to help her make herself a home. And that's when I got involved. And as she got older and got closer to 18, we really focused on what are the resources that are available to you, and how can we find you a home? How can you make yourself a home, since no one else is going to do this for you?
My name is Lilia Panteleva, and I am the Executive Director of Children's Law Center of Minnesota. Children's Law Center of Minnesota feel a great need for children that come into the child protection system through no fault of their own. These are children that are abused, abandoned, neglected over and over, come into the system not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing what their future will be like. Children's Law Center of Minnesota provides these youth with legal advice, counseling, but also mentorship in a way, because oftentimes our attorneys for these children are the only stable adult in their lives. In terms of legal representation of children who are in child protection system, we represent the whole child. Whatever the child needs are, whether it's educational needs, whether it's health issues that they may experience, whether it's contact with siblings that they may or may not see again. We stay with our children clients for the duration of the case. In addition to direct legal representation of youth in foster care, we are also involved in systemic reform and policy changes that may impact children throughout the entire state. We also are often asked to participate in various coalitions and groups that are creating new policies or are revising the current laws that are potentially most favorable for foster care youth.
My name is Ann Tyler Guentis. I'm the managing attorney at Children's Law Center. Children in foster care need attorneys because they are in a system that is complicated. They have certain rights that they are entitled to, but no one takes the time or the energy to explain what those rights are. They have the right to decide and have a say in their placement. They have a right to continue to receive benefits after age 18 and to continue to age 21. They have a right to certain placements within their schools to continue the same school district. They have a right to have a say in whether or not they're separated from their siblings. They have a right to agree to being adopted.
My courtroom experience without my Children's Law Center would have been very frustrating. I was young, I don't know court language or anything like that at the time. So having her there to be able to explain things to me and explain things that were happening was very helpful.
There are circumstances in which we have received calls from youth who have questions about what's going on in their case, or the fact that they've never been in a courtroom and they know that there's a proceeding going on, but they're not even sure whether or not their parents' rights have actually been terminated. They don't know their own legal status. They don't know if they're in child protection or if they're state wards. They don't know whether or not decisions have been made regarding whether they can continue in care or not. And no one has explained that to them. And they haven't been inside that courtroom, and the court hasn't even explained it to them.
In instances where their parents' parental rights have been terminated and they become state wards, we continue to provide legal representation to these youth and give them support in making the decisions on whether or not they would like to be adopted, whether or not we can find a family that's very suitable for their needs. And there are instances where children do not want to be adopted for various reasons or are not ready to be adopted yet. We provide services also to children that come back into the system and are eligible for extended foster care. We explain to them what their rights are, what the benefits are that they're entitled to, and we attend court hearings with them to make sure that those rights are secured and the benefits are received.
The public should know that the Children's Law Center does more than just represent kids. We do advocacy for youth and care. We do education, and we do system change. We use the information from our representation of youth in care to affect the systems that affect their lives. And we also provide a voice for children in that court system so that those decisions are based on the child's input along with all the other parties.
We couldn't do it alone. We have a team of almost 300 volunteer attorneys that are ready to go and fight for our children's rights. We work with attorneys from various law firms and corporate legal departments, solo practitioners. These are attorneys that could come from various practice areas, and yet oftentimes they say that this is the one thing that they enjoy doing most using their legal license. Our volunteer attorneys have been known to go truly above and beyond, making phone calls, making personal visits, consulting with all parties in the case, but also helping other parties understand what the child's position is.
The relationship wasn't always her just being my lawyer. She always made sure that she was actually doing what she needed to do plus more. She was very supportive. She was a friend to me more than an attorney. I don't think that there was anyone who could help me as much as my Children's Law Center attorney did. Something that changed for me with having a Children's Law Center attorney is that I actually had hope that things were going to work out. So once I had my Children's Law Center attorney and knew that she was so supportive of me getting out on my own and being independent, I knew that things were not going to be what I expected them to be.
The success that Deandra's had, who has been a kid who, like I said, had to create her own home, had to learn and make a decision that she was going to do well in school on her own without any sort of support for that. She has an associate's degree, is set to get another, and is also set to get her bachelor's within the year. So watching that has been unbelievable.
Proud of her?
Yeah, I'm gonna start crying. That he's doing it. Yeah, very.
I think my life now is great. I think that I'm doing very well for my age. I'm in a good place. I'm looking forward to my future. I'm not sure what is in my future, but I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure that it's going to be great.